welcome to Bridgerton Fancast, a podcast about the sexiest show on Netflix. And we are its hosts.
I'm Michelle. I live in the States. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Musings.
And my name is Rita. I live in England. And I'm at Rita Bites on Instagram and Twitter.
This week we're going to be discussing the 5th episode of the season. Yes, episode 5. But before we begin, we have to discuss some big news. Netflix announced that Bridgerton will be back for season 2.
Yay!
Not that we're surprised, with over 63 million households having watched it in its first month streaming, and its near constant reign at the top of the Netflix charts.
Filming will begin this spring, COVID willing.
Yeah.
And the second season will be an adaptation of the second book in the series, The Viscount Who Loved Me. I just love these titles.
Oh my God. Where did they come up with these titles?
James Bond. Which follows Anthony's journey to the altar as he searches for his Viscountess. And you're not going to be disappointed, guys. Because the romance is just iconic and arguably the most popular book in the whole series amongst fans. And also, like Bernie, I am once again asking you not to listen to this podcast in front of children, people. Highly inappropriate. If you're at work, or you got it on loudspeaker, if you're near your parents, if you're around someone who is just uncomfortable with discussions of a sexual nature, and why not? Put some headphones in, people. Don't say we didn't warn you, please.
Yes. Okay, so episode 5 is titled The Duke and I, and was written by Joy C. Mitchell, and again directed by Cherie Folkson. Here's a quick recap to remind ourselves of what went down in episode 5.
We haven't even begun and we're already giggling.
I know.
Okay, so the episode began with Daphne hurriedly undressing and slipping back into bed before her lady's maid woke her. It's rather impressive sneaking around until you realise she's left a pile of muddy riding clothes in the middle of her bedroom floor. But I digress. She then goes to meet her very hungover mother downstairs to break the news of the engagement. Her mother is overjoyed when she realises she's actually marrying the Duke, not the Prince. And Daphne awkwardly breaks the news that the wedding needs to happen like yesterday. Violet is, of course, a hashtag cool mom about it and is like, sure, we can get you a special license and organise a gigantic social huge wedding in 3 days. That's fine, cool.
Of course.
Though this is all has a bit of a whiff of scandal, if you ask me.
Meanwhile, over to Buckingham Palace, where Queen Charlotte is basking in the glow of securing the diamond of the season for her nephew. All that comes to a crashing halt when she reads the latest Whistledown reporting on Daphne's engagement to Simon. Poor Prince Friedrich then pays Daphne a call where he apologizes for, quote, misreading her polite attentions, end quote. No.
He's so sweet.
Daphne explains that he did not misread her intentions. She was just overwhelmed by the intensity of her connection to Simon and blah, 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 true love, etc. Every time she gives this speech, she looks more and more worried. So true.
Okay, so it's time for the young couple to promenade again. But this time, Simon shows up extremely late and looking like he's been dragged through a bush backwards. His hangover is actually giving even Violet Bridgeton a run for its money.
Did you bring the bar with you, boy?
Lady Danbury is not amused. They begin their walk, but they are interrupted by well-wishers who start talking about what a fine family they will have, which makes Simon look really guilty and Daphne look really depressed. So yeah, awkward all round. Over at the Featheringtons, Portia tells her husband that the modiste is refusing to hand over the girls' new dresses until Baron Featherington pays the damn bill. He's nonplussed and tells her that they can reuse some of their old dresses instead. Have you seen their old dresses?
Oh my God. It's not like they're subtle. It's not like they're not memorable. So, yeah.
How are they going to catch a husband with no dowry and some old dresses? Anyway, Colin arrives with flowers for Marina, and Penelope does the Lord's work by being like, hey, you said you were going to Greece. Why don't you do that, like, immediately? Now, he tells her there are, quote, things he would miss in London if he left, end quote, while looking longingly at Marina. Bath everywhere.
Yeah.
Penelope then persuades her mother to nip this courtship in the bud under the guise of helping Marina secure a marriage. Colin, at 20 years old, is far too young to settle down.
Wedding prep time, and while her poor maid is run ragged prepping the wedding breakfast and flowers and all of the actual details, Daphne is having her dress fitting. There is an embarrassing moment where her mother and Mademoiselle Delacroix discuss the sexy new nightgowns Daphne's gonna need, and she's like, what? Because honestly, the concept of a honeymoon is still lost on her. They are interrupted by Cressida, who makes it clear that she did indeed see Simon and Daphne in the garden together. She accuses Daphne of stealing the prince away from her, purely just to make Simon jealous, and then luring Simon into the garden to trap him into marriage.
You should consider your words more carefully, Cressida. In a matter of days, I am to be a duchess, and you shall be just as you are now, unmarried and untitled. So you can either be a duchess's friend or her enemy. It is entirely up to you.
First, let us see if you actually managed to drag him down that aisle at all. I'd imagine a man like the Duke does not take kindly to being forced into anything.
More wedding prep. Simon and Anthony meet at a church to get a special license, and while they wait for the Archbishop to arrive, they discuss Daphne's dowry. Simon refuses to accept it because he finds the practice insulting, true, and instead encourages Anthony to put it in a trust for her. Or her children. Awkward.
Oh.
Anthony then apologizes for shooting at him. And Simon says he would have thought him dishonorable if he did not. And hashtag same on that. They then laugh about how terrible a shot Anthony is. It's like, I would have been more frightened if you shot it up in the air. Which is when they're interrupted by the Archbishop. It seems their request for the license has been denied. Denied!
Denied? Oh no. At a family dinner that night, why did I put an S in there?
You thinking
Danbury? I think so. Lady Danbury responds to the news by telling them the very obvious, that the Queen is behind the request denial, and if they are to get their license, then they will need to give her the attention she desires, and explain to her that they are in love. Cue anxious expressions from Daphne and Simon. For some reason, we now go over to Benedict. He is at Sir Henry Granville's again. This time, the party is basically an orgy, and he hooks up with Genevieve Delacroix. While fumbling for a bedroom, he walks in on Sir Henry and some nameless man going at it. And then, what does Benedict do? He goes back out in the hallway and begins a threesome with Delacroix and a third woman. It's all very horny, but in a way it makes you feel like syphilis is in the air. Ugh.
Watch out, everyone. Benedict is gross now. Over at the Featheringtons, and Portia tells Marina she has 5 days to muster up enthusiasm for Lord Rutledge's impending proposal and to cut Colin Bridgerton immediately. Yay! Marina then persuades her to give her those 5 days to wring a proposal from Colin. Boo. She plans on seducing him before the wedding and making him think he is the baby daddy. What a bitch. Okay, yeah. I've been holding it in, but this is evil. Anyway, Penelope overhears this and looks horrified because it's evil. Queen Charlotte is informed that her husband King George is lucid and pays him a visit. Their conversation is familiar and loving as they discuss their children and giggle over past memories that include kangaroos. George then asks her about his daughter Emily, or Amelia as she is more well known. Charlotte tells him that she died several years ago, which confuses George because he remembers seeing her just last week. Distraught and confused, he becomes angry and starts throwing things, and he yells, "She has killed my child." And Queen Charlotte leaves the room upset as he is restrained.
We'll talk about it later, but that was a hell of a scene. Over to the Bridgertons, and Daphne still can't sleep. She wanders out into the garden where she bumps into her lady's maid. She shares her anxiety about the wedding and tells Rose that Simon cannot have children due to a physical impediment. Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sexy Boxer, aka Will Mondridge, who I'm starting to suspect might be the biggest catch on the show, finds Simon drunk off his ass and he's been kicked out of a tavern. Can you imagine how annoying he must have been to get kicked out of a 19th century pub? Especially since, he's a duke.
He's a duke.
He's got the coint.
He must have been heckling those musicians all night, and it's like, dude.
Enough's enough. Beat it. Anyway, Will drags him home with him, where he wakes up the next morning surrounded by a cozy domestic scene with kids everywhere and Will and his wife being super cute, which makes Simon look wistful.
So back at Buckingham Palace, and Simon and Daphne have an audience with the Queen. Daphne tries telling her some bull about it being love at first sight with the Duke, and Simon interrupts her, quite rudely actually, with a long, flowery speech about friendship.
I've never been a man that much enjoyed flirting, or chatting, or indeed talking at all with Daphne. Miss Bridgerton. Conversation has always been easy. Her laughter brings me joy. To meet a beautiful woman is one thing, but to meet your best friend and the most beautiful of women is something entirely apart. And it is with my sincerest apologies, I must say it took the prince coming along for me to realize I did not want Miss Bridgerton to only be my friend, I wanted her to be my wife.
And the Queen is moved, telling them that friendship is the best foundation a marriage can have. She offers Daphne the choice to marry him, and we then immediately cut to the wedding because, of course, after that speech, damn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the whole wedding is like a really great scene. There's a Stevens song that plays. It's just so gorgeous, and it's a montage of like Daphne walking down the aisle and Anthony's arm, and Simon and Daphne looking terrified as the ceremony begins, and putting the wedding ring on her, and as they're pronounced man and wife, they both look like, oh damn.
Cut to the wedding breakfast because it's not a Bridgerton episode without a party, and the whole ton seems to be in the Bridgerton home. Yes, even Cressida, who's changed her tune now that Daphne is a duchess and asks her to remember her in the future. Oh, she sure will, Cressida. Daphne keeps stealing glances at Simon, but he keeps dodging her. Across the room, Penelope tells Marina that she should not trick and deceive Colin into marriage, that it is cruel to do this to a good man. But Marina objects to the idea of being married to a bad man, quote unquote, and insists she will be a good wife to him. Portia interrupts them to tell Marina that her only other option, Lord Rutledge, is engaged already. Man, he moves quick. He must have had several irons in the fire. Let's just put it that way. So now Colin is her last hope. Marina goes to work, leading Colin into a room so they could be alone together, then attempting to kiss him. He quite unexpectedly stops her at the last moment because he is a gentleman, which is nice, but then ruins it by proposing instead.
Oh, Colin. I literally screamed at the television, no!
Yeah. Unfortunately for Marina, he proposes they get married at the end of the season, which is way far too way to convince him he is the baby daddy.
The Queen arrives at the reception, just, casually popping in for a wedding, as you do, and wishes Daphne luck on her wedding night. Ayo! Yeah! Which confuses Daphne, and then she wanders off to look at some fruit that nobody is eating, where she overhears Eloise accusing Lady Danbury of being Lady Whistledown. Danbury, obviously says she's not because she's in public and she's just been accused of something scandalous. What the hell, Eloise?
Right.
But the Queen is intrigued by Eloise's investigation, bad it is, as it is, and pulls her off for a chat. Benedict then runs into Sir Henry Granville and is like, gay sex? What gay sex? I never saw a thing. Which is very cool of him, I guess, because it's still hella illegal at the time, but also borderline the bare minimum. He's then introduced to Sir Henry Granville's beautiful wife, who just turns out to be the third woman he was screwing at that orgy. Oh, the shenanigans.
After Anthony references all the babies Daphne is going to have, she runs upstairs to her room in a blind panic. Her mother follows her and attempts to give her the talk. I say attempts because it's really devoid of any substance. Lots of references to rain-soaking fields in autumn and other such nonsense. Daphne leaves that conversation not knowing anything about anything, so it's fair to say it's a waste of everyone's time.
What was that? What was that?
This is why women back in those days must have been absolutely petrified of their wedding nights.
And also just, like, giving birth.
I know.
Like, they don't know. She doesn't know anything about that either. It's just,
It's just, it's ridiculous. Haven't you ever had a puppy or a kitten? Sometimes you just stumble upon a couple cats.
They either know nothing or, yeah, I know everything because I watched a horse going at it or something. They're like, I live in the countryside. I've seen all the animals doing it. And I'm always like, that's not the same, is it? That's not the same.
Anyhow, we then get a lovely scene of Daphne saying goodbye to her brothers and sisters. It's very moving, but not at all relevant to the plot, so off we go. Daphne and Simon traveling to his estate, Clevedon, which is on the south coast of England. They will be breaking the journey overnight in an inn. So yes, that's how Daphne will spend her wedding night, the romance. And she looks kind of horrified by it, too. When they arrive, she learns he requested separate rooms. He's really not living up to that rake reputation now, is he? When he comes to her room to call her for dinner, she unloads on him, telling him that she's been wanting to talk to him for days, but he won't even look at her anymore. He explains that he was ashamed that he, quote, trapped her, end quote, into marriage.
I cannot stop thinking of you. From the mornings you ease, to the evenings you quiet, to the dreams you inhabit. My thoughts of you never end. I am yours, Daphne. I have always been yours.
For some reason, he's under the impression she's not into him, and she's like, hey, dude, if you had looked at me over the last few days, you would have realized I am very much into you. And then they say something about burning for each other and kiss.
Okay, couple officially reconciled. Strap yourselves in, people. Time to get down to business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have been dreading reading this aloud. Simon tells her he wants to show her more. And Daphne's like, what? There's more. Nobody told me. And hell yeah, there is. Hell yeah. He rather skillfully undresses her. He has a deft hand with the corset and the tiny, tiny buttons.
Yes.
Ooh, impressive. And then he takes his shirt off, and Daphne and all of us collectively swoon, and they head to the bed.
Mm-hmm.
This is already sounding like I'm describing porn, so I'm so sorry, guys. This is awkward, and we aren't even halfway there. But weirdly, this is vitally important for the plot, so I have to do this. Simon asks her if she touched herself, and she's like, I sure did. And then he's like, well, show me. And then guides her hand for her. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh my god.
Her startled look and like weird giggling is sincerely the best bit of acting I've ever seen. He also asks her what she thought about, and we all wonder. He then climbs out of bed and drops his pants, and we get like a hilarious reaction shot of Daphne seeing her first ever penis. She legit gasps. was great. Anyway, he comes back on top and tells her this may hurt a moment. And I was like, boy, you have no understanding.
Oh, my God.
She has to get back in that carriage tomorrow. This poor woman.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then he enters her. I'm making it sound gross, but it's sweet. I promise you, there's like romantic music, and violins, and romance, and soft lighting. Anyway, they have sex. Daphne's clearly starting to enjoy herself, and she's becoming more comfortable. And then she tells him she thought about him when she was touching herself, which, at this point, I legit yelled at my television, damn girl, get it. Like an actual lunatic. But forget about me. The sex continues until she climaxes, and then Simon pulls out and comes all over the bed. And I instantly was like, that poor maid that has to wash that up. Like, this is really weird for her. This isn't your bed, Simon.
I know.
Anywho, post-coital cuddle time, Simon asks her how she feels, and Daphne says she feels wonderful and grins up at the ceiling like someone who just banged Simon Bassett. And I, for one, believed her.
Yes.
And that was the end of the episode. That was literally the climax.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we all need a smoke after that. And I don't even smoke. Oh, my God. But
I've watched that scene a lot now to write the details down.
Well, you had to get the details right, you know?
I had to.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
This whole episode for Simon and Daphne leading up to the wedding, I was, like, really frustrated for the most part.
Yeah.
By the time Daphne's screaming at him, I was like, yes, why can't you two just talk? Just communicate.
Open your mouths and talk.
Say words. The fact that they were both thinking that neither of them liked each other was insane.
How? How is that possible?
You were just being horny in the garden together.
I know. And all of that time that you guys were pretending to be a couple, and you were both discovering just how much you have in common in your friendship and all. Oh, God. It's time for the ball peen hammer. Bang, 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 bang.
But I really loved the delicious angst of the wedding. It was beautifully
that was
filmed.
Wonderful.
And the music made me feel things. And Reggae's expression when he sees her for the first time, like, killed me. He looked like he was about to cry.
Oh, God. It was wonderful.
I was just, like, really overwhelmed for, like, the whole thing. Very, like, emotional. Like, I did not expect to have all these emotions swirling around inside, because I think from the last episode you just expect them to, like, all right, just get married then.
Yeah, exactly.
And then to have all of this, like, conflict and drama surrounding just the wedding, I was like, oh, I can't contain my emotions.
Yeah, and I of course, as soon as we finished recording, bounced onto Netflix to watch this episode. And, I have a work day still ahead of me.
I can't.
I have a work day ahead of me. And as by the end of that episode, I was almost dizzy. Well, I'm always dizzy because I've got a little bit of vertigo these days. But it made me swoon.
It rises the blood pressure, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, and God knows I don't need that. But yeah, that was incredible. The wedding was stunning. The food, the cake. Did you see the cake?
I know. I was like, that cake looks like a tiered version of, like, Queen Victoria's cake. It was so
insane,
detailed. Like, who are they hiring as a chef?
Seriously. I mean, when we earlier saw Lady Bridgerton going into the kitchen and kind of check things out and all that kind of stuff, and she was, chiding the chef on, how the cake needed to be. And I was kind of like, okay, oh God, dude, do you have this in you to make the cake that needs to be made?
Never.
Well, apparently so. Goddamn.
Everything about the wedding for like they decked that church out with flowers. I was like, you did this in 3 days?
They did that thing up righteously.
I really like this episode having the reception at the Bridgerton's house because you got to see like a real glimpse of their house for like a really long time, and I'm obsessed with that entrance hall. It's gorgeous. It reminds me of the Von Trapp entrance. I was like, I want to live there. Everything might be blue and white, but I can live in that aesthetic. Like, let me move in. Who do I have to marry? I'll even marry Benedict if I have to.
Yeah, I'll make it work. Yeah. And I was watching a behind-the-scenes video on the show, and that's a set.
Yeah.
It's just stunning.
I just don't think that they could have filmed, like, the angles that they did if it wasn't a set.
No.
But it's very impressive.
Yeah, it's amazing. Netflix dropped some serious point on this show.
63 million households, they're making it back.
They're making it back. Very good investment. Okay, well, how about Daphne's air quotes sex talk?
I've been mad at Violet Bridgeton for this for like
how many
at
years?
least 15 years or something. That's half of my life, people. So that's a lot of mad. Like, I get that it's an awkward conversation. I get it. I wouldn't want to have it. But not giving Daphne information about her own body and, like, her relationship.
I know.
And just, like, she expects her to have all these babies and to have a really great marriage. And then she doesn't give her any of the tools to achieve these goals that she has set out for her. It's a huge failure.
Wow.
And to think she has 3 more daughters.
Oh my God.
I hope at some point Daphne can confront her mother about this, because this is terrible.
Yeah. Well, by the time she gets to the littlest one, she should be a pro at this.
I really hope so.
Or personally, I think Daphne needs to haul her sisters aside and say, look, I'm going to do you a favor. Here's the deal.
I'm going to tell you what Mum won't tell you, because she's going to be going on about fields soaked with water. We're going, it's natural. Oh, okay, great. That doesn't help me at all.
Fields soaked with water. How absurd. Oh, Lord. Well, okay, time to talk about it.
The actual sex scene itself.
Yeah.
As much as I just giggled reading that out loud, I thought it was actually beautifully shot.
Yeah.
And very romantic, and the music was really moving. It kind of like reminded me of like watching performance art. I was like, you don't sexualize it really. It's like more about the emotion of the moment for them. But that said, yeah, I did heckle at the TV. I think it was the line about like her touching herself.
Yeah, show me.
Him. Yeah, I was just like, oh damn, this is an next level, like flames. It was.
Oh.
There were so many bad sex scenes that I've seen in the history of movies and televisions. This was like definitely.
This was
thought out.
This was brilliant.
Yeah.
This was brilliant. I mean, God knows I've read countless romance novels. And I've read a lot of really good ones. And I've read a lot of really bad ones. And
hey, the bad ones make you appreciate the good ones. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. And I'm telling you, even though I don't want this season to end, because we're in the downward slide now, people.
Oh no.
I know. I freaking can't wait to read this book. Tell me something. Was the scene as good as it was written?
It's very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is pretty much the same situation at the inn, and he's like, I'll teach you everything you need to know, basically, because she's explaining that her mother is useless. That scene was hot in the book.
Yeah.
I think the only thing the I burn for you line, pet peeve.
Oh, jeez.
Very, very hot. It's from the second book. Anthony says it to his his
Whoops.
wife. Not post-coital,
Whoops.
during coital, they have a conversation like midway through. And so I was like, oh, you did not steal from Anthony. Simon has this one line that is just terrible. It's around a similar time when she's like naked on the bed. He says, I will be your blanket, which I have always cringed at. Even as a teenager, I was like,
that is blanket?
Yeah, because she's like shivering. Yeah, it's not sexy. So of course they had to leave that line.
No,
but I'm just annoyed.
Yeah.
What's Anthony gonna say that's as hot as that? Hashtag justice for Anthony. So. But yeah, it's like the sex scenes are very detailed in the books.
Wow.
Which I appreciate, yes.
Whew. Yeah, that was really incredibly well done.
So immediately after, I was like, okay, this works for missionary, but like, if you get any more adventurous, what are you gonna do, Simon?
I know.
It's not gonna work in the carriage, that's for sure.
His whole plan to avoid impregnating her.
So stupid.
Writing on the wall, right?
Fair enough, though, because I don't think they had sex education for boys either, but the fact that he thinks this will work.
That this is gonna work? Yeah. Good luck. Good luck, son.
He slips up one time, and he's just giving up. That's my feeling. Like,
just like, oh, well.
He's like, oh, well, I might have already done it, so... It's not gonna last.
Wow.
Speaking of pregnancy...
The Marina, Colin, Penelope triangle. This is just causing me no end of heartbreak.
I think I'm ready to just have Penelope tell Colin she's pregnant now. I'm at that point now where I can justify it. She
looks absolutely tortured.
I mean, just like, even if she wasn't into Colin and that was just her friend.
Just her friend, yeah. Nicola, you're killing me. You're killing it, which is killing me.
I just want to give her a big hug and then slap Marina.
Yeah.
I don't care how desperate you are, Marina. You weren't that desperate like 2 episodes ago. You were like, it's fine.
Everything's great. The only thing that is going to resolve this will be is it George, the dude that she fell in love with? Whatever his name is. If the soldier boy comes home, that's the only thing that is going to solve this. And she finds out that he did not send her that letter.
But I think Penelope's going to just tell Colin, to be honest.
You do? She's going to let the cat out of the bag.
She's just going to snap one eye and be like, no, she's pregnant, you dumb.
Next up, Queen Charlotte and King George.
Okay, that scene was so moving.
Oh my god. That, like I mentioned when we were doing the recap, we talk about it later, because I knew that both of us were going to be so incredibly moved by that scene. The acting in that scene was beautiful. Just beautiful. And you saw the softness that Queen Charlotte has in her heart for her king. And he called her Lottie.
Oh, it's so cute.
That was so sweet. Oh my god. And then he descends back into madness, and just how heartbreaking this whole thing must be for Charlotte.
I know, it was a very good insight into why this puppet master figure does what she does in this series, and I think it had gotten to the point where we really needed an insight into why she's so obsessed with her nephew getting with the diamond of the season and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a good character moment. And for the past few episodes, there have been jokes about, like, where do they keep the king? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought they were all, like, quite funny. So this scene was unexpected and obviously really powerful. And it's given me a little history lesson. So that's nice.
Exactly. I know that I wound up doing some Wikipedia-ing after the episode.
George was 22 when he succeeded to the throne.
Oh my God.
When his grandfather died. And he married Charlotte the next year. She was from, like, some random insignificant North German duchy. And they only met on their wedding day, which is insane. He never took a mistress, in contrast with, like, every other royal figure ever. And they were, like, really happily married until his mental illness struck, I guess. And they had 15 children. 15!
Good God.
In your face, Queen Victoria. In your face. She had way more.
I think they liked each other a little bit.
I think they did. There is still some debate as to what King George actually suffered from. But he had all those manic phases throughout his life, and he would become lucid again. And it's speculated that because it was untreated and misunderstood, that it became more and more severe. And I guess, like, 3 years before the show was set, in, I think it was 1810, his youngest daughter, Princess Amelia, the one he called Emily, died from a fever. And he was already, like, partially blind from cataracts, and he had all this rheumatism. And George became seriously deranged after that happened. And the Regency Act came into effect in 1811. So, I guess at this point, he's off living in Kew. Have you heard of Kew Gardens?
Yeah.
Well, he basically he and Queen Charlotte were really into gardening, and Kew Gardens is this huge garden that still exists today, and you can go visit there. It's really, really beautiful. That's where the kangaroos. He's talking about the cottage, and he's like, "You put kangaroos in the gardens." That's what they're talking about, which is actually an insane thing to do when you think about that they got kangaroos from the other side of the planet. Can you imagine? It probably took them like a year to get the kangaroos there. It's insane.
Nuts.
But yeah, the whole, like, just dementia in general, and he eventually went completely blind and deaf, and he couldn't even, like, walk or, like, chew his own food towards the end when he died. It's just, he didn't even realize when Charlotte died. He had no concept of that.
Oh. So she died. She predeceased him. Predeceased.
Only by a few years though. But eventually, when he died, his son George IV came. He was the Prince Regent, but then, as I said earlier, his daughter, the one that died in childbirth, she died, so he didn't have an heir. And then you had William the Fourth, I think, and then he died without an heir. And then his third son, the Duke of Kent, also died. But he had a daughter called Victoria. God. So yeah, that's how you get this very confusing bit of, like, period of history.
Wow.
And then you get the sexy Victorian era where the gowns aren't as unflattering.
That is crazy.
Speaking of crazy, Baby Benedict's first orgy. I was like, why are there women flapping their dresses around in the air like that? Do they think that's hot? What is going on at this party? And then it was like, oh, it's not a party. People are just so horny that they can't contain themselves.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious. They did that quite well as well.
The reveal that he had sex with his friend's wife was so...
I know, that was
so funny.
That was just awesome. That was one of those moments where you just kind of go, oh, dude. Oh.
Not that I think he would mind, but it's just like, oh... I still don't understand why this storyline is happening. I mean, I'm just baffled by it. Why is it here? What are we seeing? Why? I for somebody who wants to be an artist, he is spending none of his time drawing. He just wants to drink and hook up.
Honestly, I think we run through our favorite scenes already with our storyline discussion. Any of the scenes that you didn't like?
I didn't like Anthony banging on the door, being like, "Where is she? Oh, where's my opera singer?" I don't know why I'm using that voice for him. He has a very deep voice. I'm sorry, Anthony.
Because it's pathetic.
I'm just so bored of this. And I know that it's not going to end. That's the thing. I'm like, there are 3 more episodes. Bet you some more stuff happens with them that I'm not going to enjoy. Oh, just leave the opera singer alone. You cannot marry her.
Yeah.
I'm very Violet Bridgeton about this. The Benedict stuff also was like, why are we here? The orgy scene was very long. It was very long. I described it in like 3 sentences because it was mostly just like, ooh, drinking and nudity and people making out on the stairways. It's like going back to a party from your youth where you're like, okay, I'm too old for this now. You're just making out on the stairway in front of everyone? How is that comfortable? Anyway, Benedict, I want you to just focus on the art and less of the being a horny teenager, please.
Yes, please.
What about you?
I think the scene where Violet is attempting to talk to Daphne, I just found it to be so frustrating. And I mean, it was well done, but it just made me think about, how all of these young women, throughout the ages, and it probably, if it was that bad in that period, how much worse must it have been once we get to the Victorian period? It's just made me think about all those young women who absolutely no idea of what was in store for them. And I can imagine if they were marrying, someone like, gross dude too.
Hey, don't forget old. He's also gross and old.
Yeah. If they were marrying someone like that and they had zero information on what was going to happen, holy crap.
I mean, I add the old because if he can't get it up, they're going to be like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And they're not going to think there was anything wrong with him because they're never taught anything like that.
Of course not.
It's just truly depressing.
Yeah. So, I think that my brain just went down a rabbit hole with that scene, and I just got angry. So...
The weight of the patriarchy was upon us, and we were like, no!
Yes.
The thing is, that scene was actually a lot better than it is in the book. In the book, every time Daphne asks a question that Violet is uncomfortable with, she gets kind of hostile, and she's at least in the TV show, you felt like Violet was trying her best, but she was just useless.
Oh my lord!
In the book, it's kind of like she's so uncomfortable and squirming. She's just like, I don't have to talk about this. It's over. Your husband will teach you, and it's like.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, I've been mad about this forever. But then I also think it's incredibly important that we all realize how far we've come, because it really was only through sexual liberation in the 60s that we've got to a place where we actually know anything about our own bodies. And even so, there are still some areas where women are ignorant about their own stuff. I feel like I'm still learning all the time, because you really only go over the most basic stuff at school, and then later on you're like, that muscle's how big? Yeah.
Yeah. That's supposed to go where? You out of your damn mind. Oh God. So, the expression on her face was just priceless.
So performer of the episode for me,
oh my God,
was Phoebe Denver, because what incredible. There was that sex scene, the line between naivety and her desire was just everywhere on her face. It was just incredible. And again, I need to mention the moment where she gasps when she sees his dick, because it was amazing. I've never giggled that hard. I want to give her an Academy Award. You know, she's not actually seeing his dick. That was, but
of course.
I feel like I actually saw his dick because she saw it. That's how good her acting was.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. I would have to give it to her as well. She was so good at the anxiety that she was experiencing before the wedding, the day of the wedding, the absolute confusion over why he is not looking at her or speaking to her or any of that. And then, when she basically unloads on him in the inn, it was the perfect lead into that sex scene. It's like the whole episode was just a long, drawn out lead, to the climax, which was the scene. It was just one long sex scene.
Yeah, and when you think there were like a few scenes in this episode where she's completely silent as she listens to him talk, and it's just like they say that acting is reacting, and she is incredible at it. And I think, like, if this was in the hands of a lesser actress, this would not work, because it would be funny and you never feel like you're laughing at Daphne, more like laughing with her at the absurdity of the situation. You're always so sympathetic to like everything she's going through. That's really important, because I think putting yourself in a position where you're like, hi, how does sex work, is very hard to, like, even as a small kid, I think I probably knew more than her. So to have a performer that I can relate to in that way, even if I'm not like exactly in the same situation, is really important to make the scene work and not be hilarious, even though it slightly was, but sort of unintentionally. I mean, when he comes on the bed, I was like, oh. Oh, so many jokes are coming into my head.
Yes.
But that's not the show's fault. I think it's just because we're jaded.
Maybe a tiny bit. Okay, my friend. So, how many B's out of 5?
I'm gonna give it a 5.
I was gonna say 11. Oh yeah, 5.
Last week we knocked it down half a point. I feel like this episode really was like all of the show's strengths coming back, and it was just incredible. And I think also that's in part because it had more Simon and Daphne content. Last week they were apart, and this week there was so much of them, and so much of them. So
much of them. Yes.
Yeah. And like that's where the show really thrives. They have great chemistry, and it's very, very fun to watch.
We didn't get anything in the inbox this week. I honestly think it's because everybody was embarrassed to talk about the scene.
Come on, guys. Let's talk about his dick some more.
And, this is a safe space, and, you don't have to give your real name, so...
That's true.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we have, for reasons I do not understand.
We're the ones out here, putting our names on this thing.
Yeah.
So,
oh, God.
Anyway,
future employers, don't listen to this.
Too late for me. Oh, gosh. So, what is up for episode 6?
Well, okay. Bizarrely, the episode is called Swish.
Swish? Okay.
I'm hoping that makes sense after we watch it. And the episode description reads as follows. On her honeymoon, Daphne learns just how uninformed she is about the physical aspects of the marital bed. More sex, people! Woo! Colin comes to a decision about Marina. I thought he already had. He's already proposed.
Yeah, but, maybe he learned something. I don't know. I'm just hoping.
Someone save Colin from himself.
Please do.
So what are you looking forward to in the next episode? Oh, I wonder.
Given the few molecules of information that they've given us for this episode.
Basically just a description of the last 10 minutes of the previous episode, let's be real.
Yeah. I am very intrigued to find out just how this whole marriage thing is going to work between the two of them. I think it's going to work extremely well, but that is going to cause quite a bit of angst when Simon's efforts to remain childless fail miserably, and fruit is born.
Fruit.
Fruit is born.
Yeah, I
How about you?
I have heard that this is the sexathon episode. Like, everybody's like, don't watch episode 6 with your parents. So I am
Lord.
very excited to watch it. Less excited to then not talk about it, but like then read a description out like I'm some kind of fucking commentator on a sexathon. So yeah, that's going to be fun. But I am sort of excited to see Daphne learn more about her body. That's the only way I can phrase it. Like, I'm very happy for her.
Yeah.
She should know everything about orgasms that she can. Yay, Daphne. Get it. But I am...
Go for it.
I am sort of dreading her realizing that he doesn't have any physical impediment, because she's gonna be annoyed.
Because she still doesn't know how babies are made.
No, I mean, she barely understood that sex. She was like, wait, so the marital act is how you make babies. The fact that it's called a marital act, by the way, made me like, oh, what? So you're like performing? You're like putting on a show? That's not good.
Oh, God.
So she kind of just learned that has anything to do with babies. I don't know if she got pregnant, how she would even know that she was pregnant, though, because she doesn't have any information. Her periods would stop and she'd just be like, yo, what's this?
What? What's the deal with this? Why am I feeling sick in the mornings, you know?
Was it in My Girl or something where she starts like having her period and she thinks she's dying and she's like really distraught, and then like Jamie Lee Curtis has to be like, no, you're not dying, you just got your period. Like, that's how I feel this is going for Daphne. Like, she's so in the middle of no information that she will, if her period stopped happening, she'd be like, is this how death comes?
You know, and how did her mother explain the whole period thing?
Did she? Oh, I don't even know, though.
What? It's like you just all of a sudden start bleeding, and then, you know, like, you don't even talk about why this may be happening?
Or like how it's relevant to childbirth at all.
Yeah.
But then did they know? Like, it's not like they would have been like, yes, and then the ovaries, fallopian tubes. Like, there's no, like, also part of this is that it's only until recently, and obviously not to a very large extent, that they've started doing medical research on things like fertility and how a woman's body even produces a baby. Like, the idea that they would have even known this stuff back then is... Everything about this is making me really angry and depressed. Like, oh my god. The patriarchy sucks.
Well...
Hot take.
Yeah, it sure does. Sure does. Oh, God. Well, gang, that's all from us this time. But we'll be back next week recapping and discussing the 6th episode, the Sexathon. Until then, follow us on social media. We are at Bridgerton Fancast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can email us at bridgertonfancast@gmail.com or go to our message page on Tumblr. And remember to subscribe, rate, and review, because it really helps us reach a larger audience. I had a chance to go and read the reviews that we've received on iTunes the other day, and was beaming for several hours afterwards. So thank you so much. And thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.